Hi, Green Room. We're going to read Sylvester and the Magic Pebble today by William Steig. Do you remember where we read this book? We read it in the Green Room, but we also read it on the bookmobile. And here's the title again. Sylvester and the Magic Pebble. Oh, look, there's an M. By William Steig. Sylvester Duncan lived with his mother and father at Acorn Road in Oatsdale. One of his hobbies was collecting pebbles of unusual shape and color. So his hobby, what he does for fun, is collect pebbles. Do you have a hobby? What do you do for fun? On a rainy Saturday during vacation, he found a quite extraordinary one. It was flaming red, shiny, and perfectly round like a marble. As he was studying this remarkable pebble, he began to shiver, probably from excitement, and the rain felt cold on his back. I wish it would stop raining. To his great surprise, the rain stopped. It didn't stop gradually. It didn't stop slowly, as rains usually do. It ceased. The drops vanished on the way down. The clouds disappeared and everything was dry, and the sun was shining as if the rain had never existed. It ceased, huh? It stopped very, very quickly. Look at that. First it's raining, and then boom, it stopped. It ceased. In all of his young life, Sylvester had never had a wish gratified or answered so quickly. It struck him that the magic must be at work, and he guessed that the magic must be the remarkable-looking red pebble, where indeed it was. To make a test, he put the pebble on the ground and said, "I wish it would rain again." Nothing happened. But when he said the same thing while holding the pebble in his hoof, the sky turned black, and there was lightning and a clap of thunder, and the rain came shooting down. So when he holds the pebble, it rains. What a lucky day this is, thought Sylvester. From now on, I can have anything I want. My father and mother can have anything they want. My relatives, my friends, anybody at all can have everything anybody wants. He wished the sunshine back in the sky, and he wished a wart on his left hind fetlock would disappear, and it did, and he started home eager to amaze his father and his mother with his magic pebble. He could hardly wait to see their faces. Maybe they wouldn't even believe him at first. As he was crossing Strawberry Hill, thinking of some of the many, many things he could wish for, he was startled to see a mean, hungry lion looking at him from behind the grass. He was frightened. If he hadn't been so frightened, he could have made the lion disappear, or he could have wished he was safe at home with his father and his mother. He could have wished that the lion would turn into a butterfly, or a daisy, or a goat. He could have wished many things, but he panicked and he couldn't think carefully. Oh, he got scared and he had to think right away. He panicked. Oh no. I wish I were a rock, he said, and he became a rock. The lion came bounding over, sniffed at the rock 100 times, walked all the way around it, and then went away, confused, perplexed, puzzled, and bewildered. I saw that little donkey as clear as day. Maybe I'm going crazy, he muttered. And there was Sylvester, a rock, on Strawberry Hill. And there was the magic pebble, laying on the ground, and he was unable to pick it up. Oh, how I wish I were myself again, he thought, but nothing happened. He had to be touching the pebble to make the magic work, but there was nothing he could do about it. His thoughts began to race like mad. He was scared and worried. He felt hopeless. He imagined all the possibilities and eventually realized that his only chance of becoming himself again was for someone to find the red pebble and to wish that the rock next to it would be a donkey. Someone would surely find the red pebble. It was so bright and shiny. But what on earth would make them wish that a rock were a donkey? The chance was 1 in a billion at best. Sylvester fell asleep. What else could he do? Night came with many stars. Meanwhile, back at home, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan paced the floor, frantic with worry. Sylvester had never come home later than dinner time. Where could he be? They stayed up all night wondering what had happened, expecting Sylvester would turn up by morning. But he didn't, of course. Mrs. Duncan cried a lot, and Mr. Duncan did his best to soothe her. He tried to make her feel better. Both longed to have their dear son with them. I will never scold Sylvester again as long as I live, said Mrs. Duncan, no matter what he does. At dawn, they went about inquiring of all the neighbors. Oh, she's asking the neighbor, have you seen Sylvester? And Mr. Duncan, he seems to be asking the chicken and the rooster, have you seen Sylvester? They talked to all the children, the puppies, the kittens, the colts, the piglets. No one had seen Sylvester since the day before yesterday. They went to the police. The police could not find their child. Oh, they must be very worried. All the dogs in Oatsdale went searching for him. They sniffed behind every rock and every tree and every blade of grass, into every nook and gully of the neighborhood and beyond. But they couldn't find a scent of him. They sniffed the rock on Strawberry Hill, but it smelled like a rock. It didn't smell like Sylvester. After a month of searching all the places over and over again, inquiring of the same animals over and over again, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan no longer knew what to do. They concluded that something dreadful must have happened, and they would probably never see their son again, though all this time he was less than a mile away. They tried their best to be happy, to go about their usual ways, but their usual ways included Sylvester, and they were always reminded of him. They were miserable. Oh, I wish they knew where he was. Oh, I see him. Do you see Sylvester? Night followed day, and day followed night over and over again. Sylvester on the hill woke up less and less often. When he was awake, he was only hopeless and unhappy. He felt he would be a rock forever, and he tried to get used to it. He went into an endless sleep. The days grew colder. Fall came with the leaves changing color, and the leaves fell and the grass bent to the ground. It was winter. The winds blew this way and that. It snowed. Mostly the animals stayed indoors, living on the food they had stored up. One day, a wolf sat on a rock that was Sylvester and howled because he was hungry. Do you think Sylvester can hear him? I don't know. Maybe Sylvester's sleeping. Then the snows melted. The earth warmed up in the spring sun. And things budded. Oh, that's what's happening outside here too. Oh, we've had a little snow too, but things are starting to bud. Leaves were on the trees again. Flowers showed their young faces. And there's Sylvester. One day in May, Mr. Duncan insisted that his wife go with a picnic. Ooh, I'm going to try those words again. One day in May, Mr. Duncan insisted that his wife go with him on a picnic. Let's cheer up, he said. Let us try to live again and be happy, even though Sylvester, our angel, is no longer here. They went to Strawberry Hill. Mrs. Duncan sat down on the rock. The warmth of his own mother sitting on him woke Sylvester up from his deep sleep. He wanted to shout, "Mother, Father, it's me, Sylvester, I'm right here." But he couldn't talk. He had no voice. He was a stone. Mr. Duncan walked aimlessly around while Mrs. Duncan set out the picnic food on the rock. alfalfa sandwiches, pickled oats, sassafras salad, and Timothy compote. Suddenly, Mr. Duncan saw a red pebble. "What a fantastic pebble!" he exclaimed. "Sylvester would have loved it for his collection," and he put the pebble on the rock. They sat down to eat. Sylvester was now wide awake as a donkey that was a rock could possibly be. Mrs. Duncan felt some mysterious excitement. "You know, Father," she said suddenly, "I have the strangest feeling that our dear Sylvester is still alive and not far away." I am, Sylvester wanted to shout, but he couldn't. If only he had realized that the pebble resting on his back was the magic pebble. Oops. "Oh, how I wish he were here on this lovely May day," said Mrs. Duncan. Mr. Duncan looked sadly at the ground. "Don't you wish it, Father?" she said. He looked at her as if to say, "How could you ask such a question?" Mr. and Mrs. Duncan looked at each other with great sorrow. "I wish I were myself again. I wish I were my real self again," thought Sylvester. And in less than an instant, he was. Oh no. Well, their food is not on the rock anymore. It's on Sylvester's back. But look at how happy they look. You can imagine the scene that followed. The embraces, the hugs, the kisses, the questions, the answers, the loving looks, and the fond exclamations. When they had eventually calmed down a bit and had gotten home, Mr. Duncan put the magic pebble in an iron safe. Someday they might want to use it. But really, for now, what more could they wish for? They all had all they wanted. The end. I'm glad there was a happy ending to that story. That was Sylvester and the Magic Pebble.